What's going on, guys? This is the MMA Complex, and my name is Josh.
And I'm James.
And it has been a couple of weeks. It is June 18th, 2019. It's a Tuesday evening. We took a couple of weeks off. Probably almost halfway through the month of June already,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that went by quick.
I know.
Just stuff. No particular reason other than just scheduling. Basically scheduling conflicts and then just personal stuff that's come up.
I have a bunch of nephews.
A lot of graduations this guy had to go to, and just our schedules couldn't meet up. Finally getting together. It feels like it's been forever.
Yeah.
But we have a lot to cover. We're going to kind of stick to more of the recent news just because there's so much. I think we missed a couple of events. 238, Cejudo Moraes, that was a crazy event. We'll touch on a little bit of that, but for the most part, we're going to stick to Bellator's this past weekend, 222. There's a lot to cover there, and a couple of this stuff stemming from that. So, Bellator 222 was over the weekend. You were able to catch it? The whole card? I enjoyed it, huh? It was a good card.
Yeah, I think I watched the Pico fight on the prelims, and then I just jumped to Periscope.
Yeah,
because I don't have the zone, so.
Yeah, were you out on the road? Were you doing like were you watching from home?
My girlfriend was making me watch this stupid movie. I think it's called "You'll Always Be My Maybe." It's like an Asian movie.
Oh yeah. It's,
so I was just pretending
on Netflix.
I had him on my lap watching the fights. It was hilarious. I kind of watched this fight. That's why I kind of watched this movie. She got pissed at me for the reasons why I couldn't watch the movie. I can't take it. I can't take him seriously. I can't take him like in that kind of role.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so it was perfect for me. So I want to watch the fight.
Well, I have been lucky to kind of like have some of those nights to myself, to off, and been able to watch some of the fights, and they've been great, man. It was a solid card. I enjoyed it. It was
fun.
Didn't watch it on Periscope. I watched it on another site that will go on unnamed, but it's my go-to. So it was a solid night of fights. We could start with the main card, but really we'll start with one of the most glaring situations things that come out of that card was the loss to Aaron Pico of Aaron Pico, and that was to Adam Borix, and that was by a flying knee. This was probably the highlight. This is the premier fight on the undercard. It shows you how deep this card was for a Bellator fight card. It was. I mean, I would have put Adam Borix and Aaron Pico as a headline for the prelim, but I don't know why it's so far down on the roster.
I think it's because maybe they wanted to have a fight where they can promote the zone and have people interested in maybe paying the subscription or again the trial to watch the main card.
But the way I think they televise them, or the way they organize their fights, it's kind of a little bit all over the place. So
it's not really structured to the UFC. Have the prelims like this is their main event and their co-main.
Yeah. It was like, if you look at the card list, it's way down. But on the televised version, it's just right before a couple of fights before the main card. So it wasn't really that far down of a step down for this fight and for Aaron Pico. But he loses again, flying knee. Obviously, we're just talking about some of the changes that we saw to his game. He obviously went more of the wrestling route. People always criticize him for sticking to more stand up, and having some issues in that department. And when it comes to some of his losses, but he's lost to TKO, knockout, submission. And the problem that I've seen is, especially in this fight early on, was that he was just going for these desperate takedowns, and he was getting them, and he was looking pretty well on his way to actually probably winning the decision. But your opinion watching the fight, did you see it?
It was frustrating watching the fight. I thought he could have mixed it up a little bit better. I mean, I agree that he should have, utilized his wrestling more than he has in the past.
Yeah.
Um, but it just seemed like he just totally abandoned his striking game and totally relied on his wrestling game to the point where you can see his shots coming. He looked a bit desperate when some of those takedown attempts, and like you said, they were working in the beginning of that fight, but as the rounds came to the later rounds, second and third, it just seemed like a desperate man out there, and he seemed kind of tired going to that third round, uh, and yeah, like it was a
Yeah.
dangerous fight, and it was a perfectly timed knee, and
Yeah.
unfortunately for Aaron Pico, he's 0-1 with Jackson.
Yeah. Yeah, he recently made the switch over to Jackson's, leaving his original camp with Antonio McKee and AJ McKee and all the other. And that was always a conflict with him over there. Was that AJ McKee and Aaron Pico were on the rise and almost looking like they're going to go head to head for a title shot. Um, Obviously, that's not the case anymore because Aaron's dropped what two in a row,
2 in a row, yeah.
2 in a row.
Last fight was
Yeah,
a knockout against Henry
yeah.
Morales.
Corrales,
Corrales,
Corrales, yeah.
and now a TKO loss.
Yeah. So he makes the switch over to Jackson's, which I know Jackson is a big gym, and it's a notable name in the sport. But I felt like
It's a bit too big, though.
it's a
I
bit too
feel.
big. Well, it's going to take some time. I felt like he can develop into a really dominant and really well-rounded fighter at Jackson's, but it'll take a lot. It'll take time. I felt like making if you were to make a move, it would go to a place that has a system down for wrestlers, like the
Yeah,
lab we're talking about, like the lab in California,
yeah.
with TJ and Dwayne Bang, who kind of helps out with that system,
I think.
or AKA,
I think. What's his face? Mark Munoz is the head coach at the lab.
yeah. Which I thought that would have been a perfect move for him. Those guys know how to mix up the wrestling, the striking, and just they
Yeah,
have that
because there are
flow.
wrestlers. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have that flow. You look at Juan Archuleta, who picked up a victory last night. They just know how to like always just mix it up and make get their opponent guessing. I thought that would have been the perfect kind of system for Aaron.
I think with Jackson, it's a big camp where you can't get that one-on-one
Yeah,
attention that need be. I'm sure he got one-on-one attention, but you have so many fighters that fight for the UFC or Bellator that have fights coming up,
yeah.
so they can't really give you 100% of their time.
That and the matchmaking. You obviously you had some issues with necessarily with the
Yeah,
matchmaking.
yeah. The matchmaking was kind of absurd. You have an undefeated fighter who's not a name at all, fighting Aaron Pico. I mean, this kid, he was undefeated. He was a big fighter. He was tall. He
Very
was
big.
huge,
Yeah,
12-0. Um, who went in there with nothing to lose,
yeah.
and all the pressure was with Pico. You come
Oh,
off a
big guy.
loss. He has that name value. He's Bellator's hot prospect, and yeah,
Yeah,
it just showed what happens when you fight. Because those unnamed fighters, I think, are the most dangerous. Because
yeah,
no one, because if you lose to that guy, then there's no way in hell you're
yeah.
gonna, recover
Especially
from
when you
that.
have a record like Borik's, who's undefeated with an extensive MMA record and even like a Muay Thai record.
Yeah,
He's a
he's experienced.
well experienced fighter, way
Yeah.
more experienced than Aaron Pico.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you think Aaron Pico could turn it around anytime soon? Do you see this as a
I think I think
continuing
he,
streak for
I
him?
think he can be smart with his opponents, and maybe I can see him winning with Jackson. But I think his best option is to leave Jackson and go to the lab because he's from where we're from
Yeah,
here in Whittier, and they're based in LA, and you have the former champ Dillashaw there who could be an excellent training partner.
most likely he's probably gonna end up staying with Jackson's.
Yeah, I don't see him going anywhere else, but I can see him turning it around. But
Yeah,
his management needs to like step up, and I mean, I'm not saying to fight a trash can, but fight somebody that your success rate is going to be a little bit higher.
yeah. I think he could turn it around. I think it may take some time. It's gonna be a work in progress. He's gonna need to really take some pretty much. I wouldn't fight until towards the end of the year.
Yeah, and then I don't know if he loses one more fight,
Yeah,
he becomes a 500 fighter.
he's
Just
still
like that.
young. It's like take the rest of the year to develop, train. I mean, go through the system, learn, mix it up, get put through the ringer, um, and develop as a fighter, and then maybe fight sometime in December, maybe on one of the
Yeah.
December cards.
And then the sad thing about MMA is that you're only remembered for your last fight.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think that much time off will get the loss out of a lot of people's minds.
yeah,
He'll come in excited to see what he's got.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised his next fight he'll be an underdog.
Probably. I mean, depending on how they match him up, and it is a team effort. His management, his coaches, everybody's got to go into
His best
the
interest.
discussion of like who's going to be matched up. But you don't want to give him a can, but you don't want to give him somebody that's way too experienced for him.
Yeah.
And you want to give him time to develop and acclimate to the Jackson system.
Yeah. I don't know. He's reaching that territory where I think his confidence will be lost.
Yeah.
Because
Because he took that loss pretty well.
yeah.
And normally, like I remember his first loss or his second loss, he was like fired up, couldn't wait to get back in.
Yeah.
He was like really upset. This one, he was like,
He just seemed
okay.
like a different fighter.
Yeah.
In there, and it's sad.
The green is showing. Like he doesn't know. He's not comfortable enough to pressure the outside pressure.
But I was thinking, like, I wonder if that game plan was that. I wonder if Greg Jackson was encouraging him just to go for those takedowns and not really mixing it up. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't change that game plan in the middle of the fight.
I'm sure they probably asked him to maybe mix it up a little bit better, set it up a little bit better, throw some, but
God.
eventually just keep it on the ground.
Yeah, towards the end, it was really sad to see.
Yeah, it was. It was a pretty tough loss. I don't know. We'll see how he can turn it around. He's very young. The only thing is you don't want to see him take too many shots like that anymore. Obviously, that kind of shot would have taken anybody out, really.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't want to see him suffer that many TKOs or KO losses.
I mean,
this early.
I'll tell you one thing: it hurts his chances from going to the UFC, and it only proves that he probably wouldn't do so well in the UFC.
No, not at this moment. No, and he had a lot of hype. Just even with his first fight, he had so much hype. You know what I mean? And it might have.
He's just been a disappointment, I think.
Yeah.
From all the hype and all the praise he was getting from the outside.
Yeah.
And seeing him perform the way he has, it's a bit of a letdown.
Yeah, yeah. But I think it's a mix of everything. I think it's not just his fault, really, as a fighter. It's also like, it's his management, it's his team, it's a company itself, it's a matchmaking. It's kind of like the pressure they put on him. Just let him develop. You look at what's it called, Ed? He's on the undercard. Where was it? He's on the welterweight, Bellator welterweight. He's been on the show before. Jesus Christ. He developed really well.
Yeah.
On the undercards and had a number of wins, 8 wins, 9 wins, and before he started getting main card status, or not even main card status, just like included in some of the discussion. But yeah, I don't know. They need to handle him a little more carefully and not put so much on the kid.
Yeah. Before we go to our second subject, before I forget, I want to say this before I forget. But so let me rewind.
Yeah.
Before I set this up, so when I was in elementary school, I had 2 close friends it wasn't in elementary. I think my junior year, I think 5th grade, 6th grade.
Yeah.
Ernesto Montoya was one of them, and Eli, I don't know his last name, but we were like friends throughout junior high, and we were on the wrestling team together. I wrestled at 103. I think Ernesto wrestled at 112, and then Eli was a 145-pound wrestler. And then, when high school goes away, you're not guaranteed to keep in contact with all those people you hung out with.
Yeah.
And throughout the years after high school, I thought about them because they were cool guys. And then about 2 weeks ago, I get a message on Facebook from Ernesto saying, "I love your show, MMA Complex." That's how they found me to the show.
They found you to the show?
No, through the MMA Complex.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess they were searching. If you listen to our podcast, they suggest a certain podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
I think we came up, and they're big fans of the show. They're loyal listeners. They listen every week.
No, they don't. Okay, now I'm disappointed because we haven't done one in 2 weeks.
they're loyal listeners. It's crazy. And then he added me on Facebook, and he was telling me all this thing that they really enjoy the show. Eli, he's in the military, and he
No.
listens to our show overseas.
Oh shit.
So shout out to Eli
Yeah, shout out to
and
Eli and
Ernesto
Ernesto. What's
Montoya.
up?
Yeah, so thanks for your support. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I want to tell you when I just, for some reason I just whatever reason I remembered that story, but yeah,
That's pretty awesome, man. Thank
they're
you to
loyal
those guys,
listeners,
man.
and I didn't like I said I think that I talked to them last was when I was in high school, and they listen all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's pretty
It's
crazy. That's
crazy
cool.
what our show. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. I mean to for them to, reconnect with you through the show, and I mean that's a
Well,
new one for us right there. I haven't
because
seen that.
Ernesto didn't listen to the show. Like he didn't know we had a show. Eli was a longtime listener,
Yeah.
and he told him about the show.
Yeah.
Said, "Oh yeah, you should listen to the show. It's a good show." And then he got onto it, and he listened to it. And I mean, Ernesto started listening to it, but Eli was a loyal listener from the beginning. So
Not bad, man.
he got Ernesto into it, and
That's cool
crazy.
that's cool that they still keep in contact.
yeah, because they've been best friends forever.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So, but he told him, yeah, like so and so has a show. We should listen to it. It's a good show, and Ernesto's he likes MMA, but he's not a hardcore. But he's a loyal listener, man.
Yeah.
But Eli, thanks for spreading the word, and Ernesto, welcome to the MMA Complex family.
Shit, man. Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
cool,
it's
man.
crazy.
Long time friends of yours, huh?
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
really awesome. Yeah, sorry for not making it doing two shows a couple of times. I let you guys hang in for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But thank you guys for listening, man. That's really awesome.
It's crazy.
That's a pretty cool story. I like that. I mean, we haven't really had too many. We've had a few people that have come up and been like, "Oh yeah, I love you guys' show," and it's like
It's crazy. But I think this story is crazy because I lost touch with those guys.
Yeah. That's even
and
crazy part
because
of
of the show is how we connected with each other.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
But after the show, I'll show you the message.
Yeah. Show it to me. Show it to me. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I'm glad I shared that one. I wonder, do they catch up on? Do they watch these fights? Or are they like? I'm sure
Yeah.
it's pretty hard for them. Some of them to.
No, I think Eli's he's pretty faithful.
Yeah.
Ernesto, he trains jiu-jitsu.
Oh, nice.
He watches the big fights, but he is an active listener.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Also on this card, the Heather Hardy, just Taylor Turner just dominating her.
Mm-hmm.
That was a pretty sad one for Heather Hardy because I know they're really pushing her as a female fighter for theirs. Horiguchi defeating Darren Caldwell, which I was surprised to see that as the opening of the main card. I think I was trying to get the fight connected, and I missed the first fight, and I didn't realize
that's one fight I didn't catch either.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was like the first one on the card.
I think
I don't know why they
only
did
fights
that.
from the main card I caught was there another fight before the co-main event?
It was Lyoto and Chael. It had Dylan Dennis and Max Humphrey.
Yeah, Dylan Dennis. From there on, I watched. So I watched the last 3 fights.
Okay. So I saw everything pretty much everything except the Horiguchi and Darren Caldwell. And that was probably one of the ones I was most excited to see. Now, I can't really commentate on the fight too much because I didn't really get to see it that much, just the highlights. But it was just a connection issue. I just wasn't able to catch it in time. Horiguchi I think is probably one of the best in the world, outside of like Demetrius Johnson. He went to a decision with Demetrius Johnson, and he's been killing it in Ryzen. Even mixing it up with having these kickboxing fights. Horiguchi is just he's no joke, man, and he kind of got written off in the UFC a little bit. He had a pretty decent record in the UFC, and he's been just on a roll ever since. He's developed himself into probably one of the best pound for pound bantamweights in the world, if not top 2, easy.
Yeah,
top 3 maybe.
Yeah,
if you put Cejudo, him, and Horiguchi, they're just killers, man. So I would go. Horiguchi is this. He's impressed me so much, and
he's a Ryzen champ, right?
The Ryzen champ, yeah. And so Darren Caldwell went over there as a co-promotion to take his title, fell short. Obviously, I think some of the excuses that they were giving was, it's in the ring, it's overseas, last minute fight type of thing. And then you had Horiguchi coming over here, and testing himself over here, but he's had plenty of experience in the cage, so that wasn't going to be an issue. And I favored him. Obviously, Scott Coker and was favoring Darren Caldwell and thought he was going to win, but Horiguchi picking up a decision win, not surprising. Um, Again, I couldn't say I love watching Horiguchi fight. I don't think he gets it as much. I hope he gets more love now, but he doesn't get as much as he should.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
yeah, that's awesome.
Now, in terms of co-promoting, how do you feel about this? Because now that Horiguchi is both bantamweight and bantamweight Bellator and Rising champ, he has the obligation to defend both. Um, I think he believes he can do it, and I think they're working on. That's a deal. If he were to win, he has to defend them both. Um, do you see that as a win-win I see it as a win-win for Bellator. You can pick up one of the best in the world.
Hmm.
He has your title. You schedule him twice a year, maybe. Ryzen schedules him once or twice a year, and then there you go. But how do you feel about the co-promoting? Do you think it's
I think as a fan, I love it because you get to
yeah
see like it's almost like watching an all-star game for a professional, like for basketball, for
yeah
example. You see all the stars, playing against each other.
because obviously promotions are
Yeah,
more very protective of
yeah.
their
So as a fan, it's awesome. Like
championships.
seeing one guy fight, who's the best from certain promotions, and seeing that dream scenario play out in front of you is exciting as a
Yeah,
fan. I think it's awesome. As a promoter, maybe not so much. This situation kind of reminds me of a little bit of pro wrestling.
yeah,
Back in the day, they used to have the NWA champion go to different territories to
yeah,
defend that championship, and he'd be like a touring champion.
yeah.
Where at the end of that tour, everybody from each territory knew who that person
Yeah.
was. So it helped
And
the
boxing does
NWA.
that.
Yeah,
Boxing basically
yeah,
does pretty much
boxing.
that.
Yeah, boxing has like
Multiple
multiple
titles,
titles for
different
one
organs. Yeah,
fighter. They unify all those titles, but I think for a promotion, it can be difficult because what if that person gets the injury degree or he has visa problems or whatever it is, and he
yeah,
can't defend that title, it puts that division in limbo.
yeah.
And
Obviously,
guys
yeah,
who deserve a title fight now have to wait to when he's ready.
yeah. That's
So
that's
that's a downfall.
that's downfall. I like this scenario and this kind of deal is where like if instead of just a champ versus champ and see who has the better champ, it's like if you win in our turf, you get the title, but that means you're our champion too now.
Yeah.
I like that because
No, it's good. Yeah.
it's a safety net almost for that promotion that loses.
Yeah.
So
You
I
can't
like
take
it.
their title and
You
not
can't
do
just take their
anything.
title. You got to
Yeah.
defend their title. I
Yeah.
like it.
This creates problems with booking, I
But
think.
yes, it does create problems with booking. That's a big drawback is that it does clog,
That division
that
up.
division. It's almost like how we see it in the UFC, these dual champions, and it's like these divisions get clogged up, and it's
Mhm.
almost the same situation. And
Mhm.
these guys are booked in the states, and Horiguchi's an overseas fighter. That's going to be pretty difficult to kind of
It
coordinate.
is. Hopefully, they can work it out where that doesn't become a problem.
Yeah.
But it's a reality. I mean, people get hurt. He can have visa problems. Something could happen.
I think Ryzen doesn't put as many events
Yeah, they do
as
like what?
Bellator.
Yeah,
So I think he'll probably defend it maybe twice over at Bellator, once over at Ryzen a year.
yeah, because they
That's
only
three
have
fights a year.
really one major event a
Yeah, they
year.
really only maybe one or twice,
Yeah.
one or two events, one major one a year. I think yeah.
So if you're gonna do co-promotion, they're probably the best
This
company
is
to do it with.
yeah, and this is the way to do it. Do you see Horiguchi maybe trying going for a triple title, or do you think like one championship?
Yeah, I mean, one championship, caters to the Asian market, and they're
I see them being a little bit more protective, though. I don't see them
yeah,
as being open to it as Ryzen.
yeah, and maybe you're right. Maybe they're kind of more like rivals than
Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
And Ryzen is kind of the stepchild of over there. I think
yeah.
just because it's more like a circus than it is a legit
That's true.
competitor.
That's true. Yeah. So on the other card, you had Juan Archuleta picking up a win, knocking out Eduardo Dantas, and I think it was a second round. Sick. I mean, that was a great fight, man. Sick fight. Juan Archuleta is so active. You can see the similarities in training with like Cub and TJ. Just constant movement, mixing it up. That's why I was like, oh man, that would be a perfect kind of style for like a
Very Pico.
Fair and Pico just to develop that flow. Um, Obviously, Pico has that more power base,
Mm.
than anything. But that would have
Mm-hmm.
been a perfect move for him. But Juan Archuleta picking up a nice win, knockout punch right off the cage. It was a sick fight right there. Calling out, I don't think he's calling out Horiguchi. I forgot who he was calling out. He was calling out somebody. I forgot what's it. One of our former guests, uh, Gucci what's his name? Gochi.
Gochi Mariucci or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I killed butcher your name. Sorry, man. Yeah, Patrick Mix picking up a win over Ricky Bandejas, which is, I mean, a quick fight, 1 minute, 1 minute submission, rear naked choke off the back. Dylan Dennis picking up a quick submission armbar over Max Humphreys. Um, Dylan Dennis backing it up. They're not giving him sending him to the wolves, but the guys finding tough guys and picking up solid wins and looking good.
Yeah, that fight was so easy. I mean,
Yeah.
he made the guy look like an amateur.
And from what I hear, Dylan Dennis might have injured his knee in some of those transitions, and he might be out for at least majority of the rest of the year. But I mean, Dylan Dennis is looking good. Or I got to see. I got to read up on his injury. But I know he suffered an injury, a knee injury.
It was a pretty simple victory.
Yeah. You have Lyoto Machida defeating Chael Sonnen, TKO punches. Sonnen looking good, coming out very aggressive, a lot more aggressive than I thought he would.
Mm-hmm.
But getting those flying knees and that timing by Lyoto just ended up catching him.
Yeah, it was a reminiscence of the fight prior with Aaron Pico.
Yeah.
Chael went on record saying he knows that Machida is a counterpuncher, but he's still gonna go forward and be aggressive, and he did.
That's exactly what he did.
Credit to him.
And it actually looked pretty good. It looked like a good strategy.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing, the best way to fight Machida is to fight him close, because you give him that space. He's really elusive with the strikes, and he give him space and he can work. He can do his magic, but when you fight him close, it's a difficult thing. But it's that time knee was reminiscence of the last fight.
Yeah. Favorite moment, obviously Chael. Obviously, he at the end of the fight retired. Called it a day. Got pretty emotional in some of those post-fight interviews. Chael is always to see him. I think he had a 22-year career. I don't know I forgot what it was.
He debuted in '97.
Yeah,
I think 4 months after UFC 4.
And we saw. I mean, I watched Chael. We both watched Chael WEC days.
He fought for Bodog.
Yeah, Bodog WEC. I remember his fights with Paulo Filo and all that. Then he moves over to the UFC, and then he had, obviously, that's where he just blew up in UFC. And I mean, we watched majority of his career. I've seen majority of his fights, and to see him, finally call it a day it's something. I had an opportunity to see a couple of his fights in person, so that was great. We can always say that.
We asked him a question.
I asked him a question. He answered it, and he.
I think I mentioned that people were booing him.
Yeah,
he said, "Thank you for letting me know."
Yeah, That's those moments are just like the best. That's why we love doing this. But, what's your favorite moment of Chael throughout his entire career?
That's hard. I think the build up, because you see Chael kind of transition to the bad guy character.
Yeah.
And prior to the Anderson Silva saga, no one was mad enough to pick a fight with Anderson or even poke him. Then he was the first guy to poke him, and he wasn't afraid to poke him. He said what he thought about him. He said he sucked. And before then, people were intimidated by Anderson Silva, and here you have Anderson has his foil, and they're almost like a perfect rivalry for each other. And I think that was fun to see in the trash talking the lead up to the first fight, and the way he performed in the first fight when he made Anderson Silva look vulnerable. Prior to that fight, he was unstoppable.
Yeah,
and then going to the second fight, and seeing what happened there. But I think the Anderson Silva fights were my favorite just because of the trash talking. I think he went a little personal with his wife, but it was hilarious. I think right before the second fight, the WWE offered him money to be on Raw and to ditch the Anderson Silva fight.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because I think they did the same thing with Mike Goldberg. But yeah, I'd say the Anderson Silva fights first and second.
Yeah, I think fight wise, some of his his most impressive wins, and I mean obviously, and then you have some of his losses, but um, I think he's a very up and down, controversial kind of figure, and he he even when he would lose, still call himself an undefeated fighter. He would I think some of his losses, worst losses, you could probably go with probably the Anderson 2. Maybe even his fight with Tito was a disappointing loss. But then he had great wins over that rivalry with Vanderlei. You have the win over Brian Stan, that win. Where people thought he beat Paulo Filo back in the day. His first fight with Anderson. So he's had that mix, up and downs in his career. He had controversy with PEDs. He was always a poster boy. Him and Belfort were basically the poster boys for PED use. But I mean, you can't fault him too much because he was fighting basically guys who were also on the same sauce. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the difference between him and Vitor is Vitor denied
you
it.
See it. Yeah, Vitor denied it.
Yeah, and then Chael was always up and on. He goes, yeah, I cheated, and people respect that, and I think people are more forgiving to fighters who know to their mistakes.
He also grew up he was around in the TRT days. Remember the TRT days?
Yeah, and
which a lot of fighters are on that.
Yeah, his legacy is complicated, but he is an important figure.
Yeah,
an important part of the UFC / MMA history. Before that, people talk about Conor McGregor and his trash talking. All that stemmed from Chael's son, and he brought that pro wrestling aspect.
He brought that entertainment aspect to it.
And he was one of the first guys who actually did it. And it's funny how you mentioned the whole Infinity thing because one of his post fight interviews from when he retired, in the comment section, people were saying, "And still undefeated."
Yeah,
Chael 49-0.
49-0. Yeah,
and so people, he as much losses as he had in the octagon, people still love him.
People still love them. Yeah.
And like I said, it's complicated because of his history with PEDs, but people respected him because he was up and honest about it. He didn't have no excuses. He man up to it, and people love that. I think people respect that.
Yeah.
And people are saying no or denying everything like other fighters.
And looking back now, you can't fault him too much for it. It was in that era. Everybody was doing it basically for the most part. Yeah. Most people were doing it.
I think it's sad because he felt like he failed his father because he didn't win that world title.
Yeah,
but
he came close. He came pretty close.
Yeah, he did. But I think his legacy and what he did for the sport maybe is more important than that world title.
Like he will be remembered from here on out, like days to come. Like his trash talking brought the whole entertainment aspect to MMA.
Yeah,
it was just. I mean, I would probably still put him as one of the best trash talkers. If you could probably even
still. He was so witty and
quick.
I put all that over his losses. I think he's still gonna. People love him, and by reading those comments, it showed that people love him still.
If you haven't seen some of his interview with Ariel. With that black and white era video
with Nogueira,
about the Nogueira brothers and
petting the bus, thinking that it was a horse.
And it's like he did little segments for the UFC where,
and now he has his YouTube channel.
Yeah,
he put out great content, and I think now, because of his interview skills and his trash talking, he can easily go into his broadcasting career. I think he. Right now, I'm not just saying that because we're talking about him, but he's one of the best right now, I think.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he can definitely take him and Jay Glazer could probably take the reins for the Bellator broadcast team.
A lot of fighters sugarcoat what they say, but Chael says how it is, and I love his honesty.
Yeah, and ESPN, the stuff with Ariel, he does it with Ariel. Yeah. So yeah, I think he'll go down his history as one of the greats. Controversial at times, but always a fan favorite.
Yeah, always entertaining.
Then you had in the main event Roy McDonald defeating Neiman Gracie. This is in the welterweight Grand Prix. This is pretty much the semifinals. Rory now moves on to rematch Douglas Lima in the finals for the welterweight Grand Prix. A pretty easy win for Rory. I think he cruised through this entire fight.
Impressive. With
Impressive. His defense was always a step ahead for Neiman. Neiman's stand up isn't as the same as on par with McDonald's. And his jujitsu is McDonald's jujitsu is so good that he can just get out of a lot of these dangerous situations. Which he was mounted at one point,
mounted, yeah,
a couple of knee bars that were pretty close. It was not an easy fight for him, but he did show his championship probably toughness and spirit. And does he have the same fire? And he talked about it at post fight. He's like, I'm figuring out how to fit fighting into my life. I took everything else, all the new stuff, his changes, 2 kids almost now. I think he has 1 on the way. Married, found religion. He's so much, buying houses and just growing up, trying to figure out how to fit fighting into it. And fighting kind of took a back seat. Now he's trying to figure out how to put it into his life and to,
Yeah, it's
he doesn't have the same hunger, and it's a different animal now. That's a different mentality that he's got to work on.
McDonald, I guess the born again Rory McDonald, but I think his defense that he showed really showed you how well rounded he really is, because Neiman's no joke when it comes to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
but I think he has to figure it out. He has to figure out who he is when he rematches against Lima, because Lima is a dangerous guy. I mean, their first fight when we were there in person, that was a close fight. Those guys went to war.
Yeah.
And the second fight, Lima's been looking great, and he better have it there mentally.
Yeah, he better have everything.
He's gonna be going there with the beast, and I don't know, if I see Rory McDonald with that kind of mentality coming in this fight, I see it's gonna be dangerous.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me of when Ronda fought Amanda Nunes. She wasn't really there mentally, and it showed in that fight.
Yeah. I think this fight kind of gave me a little more confidence in Rory that he can that he's kind of developing it. I think he's working on it. I think he'll be okay for the most part. But Lima's got that hunger in him, so I mean it's gonna be an interesting fight the second time around.
It was a tough fight, and
tough fight first round. We were there.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah.
And we don't. I mean, I don't agree with this welterweight tournament only because the champion is going. It's like the boss is fighting the challengers instead of him being the last person. But I feel bad for Roy. He has to defend his title, in each round
multiple times. Yeah.
So, but I mean, at the same time, if he successfully does that at the end, he'll be remembered as a badass.
Yeah, for sure. So. This kind of just puts more credibility to his championship reign, because he's now a couple of title defenses in. He defends it one more time in the finals, and then he's basically the king of the division. I mean, you got to give it to him. So that was last weekend's card. This weekend we have a couple of things to look forward to. Just to touch on last UFC 238. A lot of talk about Tony Ferguson and the lightweight title picture. Just a quick question: do you think we see Tony getting a title shot by the end of the year? Just want to throw that out there. Touch on that card real quick.
It's hard because we're in June. At the very end of June, we only have 5 months at the end of the year.
Poirier and Khabib in September.
Yeah, September. I don't know. I would say yes if Conor was in the picture, but Conor's going to get what he gets. And if let's say Khabib beats Poirier and he keeps his title, if Conor tells Dana he wants to fight Khabib, Dana's going to make that fight. And Ferguson's going to be asked out. It sucks because he hasn't lost a fight since, I believe, 2012. But I say if Dustin wins, yes.
Yeah.
If Khabib wins, no.
Yeah. But then Connor's still the X factor. He could just throw a wrench into both of those such scenarios.
Yeah, but Connor's made it clear that he wants to fight Khabib because he lost to him.
But does Khabib want to give it to him?
I don't think so. But I think when the money is shown to him,
yeah,
I think he's gonna say yes. But
I think there's a good chance that he'll get a title shot.
You think so?
At least by December.
That's hard. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe at earliest it'll be like end of the year card.
But
I
then
see
again,
that being a possibility.
we don't know how the fight is going to be after that fight. They could,
Yeah,
the champ could, whoever
get
wins that
hurt.
fight can be injured and be out for a while.
Yeah,
But I say he has a better chance of fighting for a title if Dustin wins because
yeah.
Conor has no interest in fighting Dustin. He wants that Khabib fight.
It all depends on Connor, really.
Yeah.
It depends on what move he makes because it could just. I would say yes to Ferguson by December, but it could be if Connor comes to the picture, then that just all goes away. Yeah,
It sucks,
it
man.
does suck.
I feel so bad for
It would be nice to
Ferguson.
see Connor and Tony. That'd be cool.
Yeah, but Conor wants.
He wants Khabib. Yeah,
It's like when Conor lost to Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
He wanted nobody but Nate.
yeah, it's true. This weekend you have Dana White's Contender Series. I think it's tonight on ESPN+, which is kind of cool. We can watch it then.
Is it a premiere?
Yeah, on ESPN+. You have two cards. You have Bellator and you have the UFC. So we'll touch on Bellator real quick because it's not as honestly, both cards aren't that deep. You have Bellator London. You have Mousasi versus Rafael Lovato Jr., Paul Daly versus Eric Silva, James Gallagher versus Jeremiah Laviano, Melvin Manhoff on the card, Charlie Ward, Aaron Chambers, Chalmers. But yeah, so that's that card. Okay, just real quick. Gegard Mousasi, Rafael Lovato Jr. Who do you have?
Musasi's been a beast, and he's gonna. I take it. Yeah, I take Mousasi.
That's over in London. That's on DAZN and Paramount. Catch that this weekend, the same night as UFC. You have UFC on ESPN+12. Moicano versus Korean Zombie. You have a decent card, not the best card in the world, but you have Ashley Yoder on the card. You have Andrea Lee versus Montana De La Rosa on that card. Ryan Barberina versus Randy Brown. Rob Font versus John Lineker. And Renato Moicano versus Korean Zombie. So we'll just go on the main card. Main fight. Renato Moicano versus Korean Zombie. Who do you have?
I'm gonna pick Korean Zombie.
I think so too. I think people are writing Korean Zombie off a little bit. We haven't really seen too much of him.
Yeah.
But he's probably one of the most dangerous fighters in that division. Moicano's still kind of new to the division, even though he's a very talented guy. But I'll probably go with Korean Zombie too. So that's this weekend, June 22nd. And that is our show. Thank you guys all for listening. Thank you for all the fans out there. Our international fans too. Thank you for all them. And check out themmakecomplex.com.
Yeah, those guys. Well, for Ernie and Eli,
yeah.
if you guys haven't bought a shirt, go to MMAComplex.com. $15 to get your shirt. You can go take it to practice and spread the word.
Shit, if we get to see them, if you see them in person, you guys meet up, take them a shirt.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it'd be cool.
We'll send Eli. Is he the one that's overseas, or where is he at?
I'm not sure where he's at, but he's overseas. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get him a shirt too.
But I'll hit up Ernie on social media and
get them both
shirts. The address. So thanks for the support, guys. And then you can follow us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram under the MMA Complex. Soft cards from both promotions, but next week we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So until then, enjoy your weekend, enjoy the fights.